Yo, what's good? Welcome back to another episode of Jump Switch. Today, I wanted to do something a little special for the 90s babies. This episode's all about 90s cartoon theory. Now, I'm not trying to ruin anybody's childhood, but I'm just saying all the fun memories we had as kids involve most of our favorite cartoons. A lot of us didn't know at the time that these cartoons had a deeper and darker meaning. So, with that being said, let's jump into the clip.
They wouldn't sell it to a kid without a key, would they?
A probe through Nickelodeon's longest running show definitely led me into some questionable ideas. What we see appears to be a group of toddlers with incredible imagination. As I dug some more, I noticed something. It seems as though the stories would focus mainly on Tommy and his gang's imagination.
Ducky, have I ever lied to you?
And all other characters outside of them would see them as just babies, all except Angelica. Why? A few rabbit holes later, I caught it. The reason Angelica is able to be a part of the gang's imagination is because they're a part of hers. In this childhood theory, each of the Rugrats are only figments of Angelica's imagination. Some theories go as far as to say that the children aren't just in her imagination, but are in fact deceased. Reports say that Chucky died in 1986 along with his mother in a car collision, which is why Chaz is such a nervous wreck. Tommy was a stillborn in 1988, which is why Stu is constantly making toys in the basement for his son who never had a chance to live. And the DeVilles were said to have had an abortion, and Angelica couldn't figure out if it would have been a boy or a girl. Thus, she created twins.
I don't know, guys, but I think it's probably because Angelica does all the talking for her.
Our next entry comes from the famous childhood trio, Ed, Edd, and Eddy. The show is based on a group of friends led by Eddy, who spends all of his time trying to earn money for candy. After watching the show for some time, several red flags stood out immediately.
It's you again!
I am dead from the neck up.
Why are they never in school? The days never change. And lastly, where are all the adults? This led me into digging. Ed, Edd, and Eddy takes place in a cul-de-sac, or basically a dead end. In short, the cul-de-sac is more symbolic to a purgatory than it is an actual neighborhood. This would explain the discoloration of the characters' tongues. As I continued to follow along, I soon found out that the Ed, Edd, and Eddy purgatory theory goes as follows. Ralph was a farmer in 1903. He ended up dying by being trampled to death by his animals. Johnny 2x4 died in 1922 after fighting a long battle with tuberculosis 6 years before discovery of penicillin. Eddy was born in New York during the Great Depression, ends up drowning in a river trying to escape a crowd of people he hustled. Ed and Sarah were next to enter purgatory. They grew up around World War II. Deaths were caused by an accident on their way to their grandparents. Nas was next, born in 1960. During 1970s, a serial killer was on the loose, broke into her home to rob it, and her family were murdered. Ed, or Double D, died in a gas leak in 1986, experimenting with chemicals as a child. Then there was Kevin. Kevin died from blunt force trauma, tried to stand up against his abusive father, and ends up getting beat to death in 1999. During that time, Jimmy was fighting leukemia in the early 2000s and ended up succumbing to the disease, making him next to enter the cul-de-sac. And last but not least, there were the Canker sisters. They were neither alive nor dead and were said to be demons to taunt the trio as they lay there in purgatory. Up next, we got an unlikely duo. One hell-bent on world domination and the other's more or less the sidekick. Pinky and the Brain is a story about two lab rats who try and come up with ideas to take over the planet. Brain is, well, the brains, and Pinky?
You've been playing in the toilet again, haven't you, Pinky?
The show would proceed with each episode lead up into an ultimate failure.
We're so small and we're practically the size of mice, Brain.
We are mice, Pinky.
This was a red flag. The show gave us a preconceived notion, not about who Brain was, but who he saw himself as. Not only that, multiple times Brain is given advice from Pinky, in which he ignores. Thus, his missions are always failures.
Got a smart thought in my whole empty head. Narf! Narf to the world. What are we going to do tonight, Pinky? Point! I say, point!
This evidence supports the theory that Brain is suffering from schizophrenia and dissociation disorder. Basically, he has delusions of him being a genius, while Pinky, on the other hand, proves in many episodes that he successfully carries out his own plans. This proves that Pinky is in fact the genius, and it is Brain who is clinically insane. By the way, if you haven't already, follow me or join our Facebook group. Just type Jump Switch and give us a like. Last but not least, a theory of a real-life nightmare: ScoobyDoo and his mystery gang. ScoobyDoo and his mystery gang travel around solving mysteries, typically dealing with ghosts, ghouls, or monsters. Already crazy, right? But if you notice, the only two characters who actually are afraid are always Shaggy and Scooby. So, my question was, why don't any of the other characters show fear?
Thanks to ScoobyDoo!
The answer: ScoobyDoo and the Mystery Gang theory states that the show takes place during the economic depression. This can actually be proven because the towns that they visit never seem to be doing well. The economic crash was so terrible that it even affected famous people like celebrities and professionals.
Scaring days are over. The Great Blue Stone is going to do a final disappearing act, courtesy of the local jail.
Many normally respected individuals devoted themselves to lives of crime, often disguised as monsters to evade blame.
Then he used all the scary magic tricks to keep people away.
With the scarcity of jobs, it was a no-brainer why the gang solved mysteries for rewards. Without a reason, it would be assumed that the gang just travels from place to place without a clear destination.
This is the end of the mystery.
Crazy, I know. Man, if you guys enjoy the content, let me know in the comments below. Hit that like button and always subscribe to Jump Switch.